Really what's already on the table. We're talking about cuts that are tied to reforms, and I think that's really the big point that needs to be made there. I also would say that the food stamp situation is a much larger, longer trend line than just the downturn, which is usually the big argument. And I'll give you a number right now. 47 million Americans on food stamps. That's 15 million more Americans than during 2009, the height of the recession. If you look at it on an even longer...
Hold on a second. That's a very interesting stat.
Yeah.
15 million more on food stamps since we supposedly got out of the recession.
Yeah, and
it's not supposed to work that way.
And if you look at spending since 2000, if you look at spending since George Bush took presidency, that's where we started to see the ballooning happening in food stamps. We saw a loosening on regulations for people who could sign up under President Bush, and then we've seen that just get larger and larger under President Obama. This is a much larger issue, and we have to pull back on some of those qualification regulations.
Okay, so Bill Baldwin, should we pull back?
Listen, I think Rich Karlgaard has the notion that the administration's sin is just the increase in the number of recipients. I think there's a much bigger sin, which is the weakening of the work requirement. So my solution is do not cut benefits. There are genuinely needy families, but require a family of 4 that has at least one able-bodied adult to work 28 hours a month, that's about 7 hours a week, to earn his benefit. And really enforce that. Find government jobs doing things like cleaning up parks for people who don't have other employment and make them earn their benefit.
Mike, should there be that work requirement there?
I don't think, David, the government should be in the food stamp business at all, primarily because it's tremendously inefficient. Over 10 cents of every dollar of the food stamp budget goes to paying bureaucrats. It doesn't work. And look, the cost, when you adjust for inflation and population, since this was started in the 30s, has risen over 600%.
Wow.
That's ridiculous. You're much better off handing out block grants in local communities or states than you are running things through this great bureaucracy called the federal government.
Rich, once again, this is an example of how when you put it all through the federal government ringer, it comes out distorted and twisted and wrong.
Yeah, there are too many different people with too many different competing agendas, and it makes it unworkable. You see it in the healthcare rollout. You see it here. But look, I agree with Ohio's Governor John Kasich. I mean, it's a disaster for Republicans to make war on the poor. I'm a Republican. I don't want to make war on the poor. But I want to boot out the people who don't belong on this program.
And John Tammy, the nature of getting on the dole is very destructive, is it not? I mean, there's that aspect to it as well.
It is, and I say don't cut, just abolish it. The Founding Fathers were very wise people. They were libertarians, and they understood that the federal government should have few and defined powers. We're talking about gaming of the system and lots of fraud in it. That's precisely a result of the federal government trying to fight poverty from Washington, D.C. At best, this should be a local thing that government should fight. They could do a much better job. But I say they do an even better job in the private sector through charities. The problem with the fraud is precisely because the federal government's involved. If you want to get rid of it, abolish the program.
So, Morgan, what about cutting out the federal side of this entirely, just focusing on private charities?